How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball. Welcome back to round 4 of Premier League predictions just before the international break, the first one of the season. The way it works, if you're new around here, is me and Sim go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. As you can see on the top of the screen, it's 43 points to Sim so far, 46 points to me. And the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, we both pick a man to score, and it's 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. And once you pick that man, you cannot pick them again for the rest of the season. So let's get in to the predictions, and let's start off with Luton against West Ham, Friday night football. And Sim's gone for 1-0 to West Ham. I've gone for 3-1 to West Ham. And what's your thinking behind 1-0?
Yeah, I think in this kind of game, it's less suited to West Ham than maybe a game against Brighton, where they're not asked to dominate possession and create openings. Against Luton, I think there will be. Obviously, it's Luton's first Premier League home game as well, in their ground, their small ground, which it's going to be an interesting watch. It's going to be a very like tight, not a lot of space for West Ham to play in, and I can see West Ham not saying struggling to dominate the game, but I feel like this isn't their forte in how Moyes likes to play in a lot of their games. But with Benrahma, Paqueta, Antonio, Bowen, I think they have enough quality to score against Luton. I can see Luton, though, kind of making things difficult for West Ham, especially given that extra motivation, given that their first home game. So I see them giving them a tough ride, but I don't see them having the quality to really lay a glove on West Ham offensively. I think West Ham is too strong defensively to let that happen, and I think West Ham will just about have enough quality to find a moment and get over the line. So I've only gone 1-0.
Yeah, I've got a feeling like because it is their first game at home in the Premier League, I think their fans are going to be well up for it. I think the players are going to be up for it for Luton as well. And I think actually Luton might make a better start to this game and go 1-0 up. But I think just quality is going to shine through by the end of the game. West Ham have started the season really well. Jarrod Bowen's on fire. And I think they'll have more than enough to break them down. So I think they'll end up scoring. I mean, I was deciding between 2 and 3-1, and I ended up with 3-1 because I think they've just got good firepower. They've got maybe Mohamed Kudus to come off the bench as well to make a big impact. So I've gone for 3-1 to West Ham. Let's move on to the Saturday games. 12:30 kickoff at Bramall Lane is Sheffield United against Everton in probably the lowest scoring game of the weekend, I suspect. We've both gone for 1-0 to Everton. And I think Everton have they've obviously had a really poor start to the season, haven't scored a goal as of yet in the Premier League, but I got a feeling it could change this weekend. I do think they have been fairly unlucky to not find the net so far. And against the Sheffield United side, who haven't really impressed whatsoever in this start of the season, they did have a good defensive performance against Man City last weekend, but I think this game will probably provide different sort of tests for Sheffield United, and I think Everton are going to sneak this one 1-0.
Yeah, I can see it being a very tight game considering Everton, how they usually set up with their very, under Sean Dyche, very much relying on set pieces, long passes, get the ball out wide, get crosses in. And I don't think Sheffield United will mind that too much with their back three system. I think they'll be ready for what Everton have to offer, but I think Sheffield United just lack quality really in the forward line to really get beyond Everton and really test them. I think very similar to the Luton game. I don't think this is a game suited to Everton, but they did get the win in midweek, which maybe will give them a confidence boost after not scoring a goal in their first 3 Premier League games. They've got Beto now, a new striker, so maybe he can give them a new focal point in the forward line. Danjuma got off the score sheet as well. So I've gone for them to just sneak it 1-0.
All right, next up is Brentford against Bournemouth, and Sim's gone for 2-0 to Brentford. I've gone for 2-1 to Brentford. I mean, Brentford have failed to keep a clean sheet so far in their 2 home games, but they are usually a tough nut to crack over there at the Brentford Community Stadium. I think Bournemouth as well, they've started the season quite well in terms of the way they're playing their football, but I think Brentford are going to be a bit too strong here, but I can see maybe Bournemouth nicking a goal at some point.
I think Bournemouth, in a weird way, the way they now like to play would actually be more... I think Brentford would like that because I think they'll like Bournemouth opening up a bit and trying to play through them and be more progressive. And I actually see Bournemouth, especially in their backline, being a bit of a soft touch. I think that Brentford physically are going to back themselves to dominate Bournemouth on that regard. And with Bournemouth's progressive approach, I think that will really suit Brentford's transitions, especially with the likes of Mbeumo and Wissa up front. I really back them to cause Bournemouth a lot of trouble going forward. And I'm just looking at Bournemouth right now in the forward line, and I see Brentford being a very solid defensive outfit. And I know Palace got got a goal fairly luckily last week, but I see Bournemouth really struggling to penetrate the Brentford defence. So I've gone for them to keep a clean sheet and a 2-0 win.
Next up, Burnley against Tottenham at Turf Moor, 3 o'clock kickoff. Sim's gone for 3-0 to Spurs. I've gone for 2-0. So why 3?
Yeah, I just think, again, the way Burnley like to play now under Vincent Kompany, they're going to try and press us. They're going to try and play high up the pitch and open up a bit. We saw they struggled against Villa, but Villa obviously play a bit more of a counter-attacking style than Spurs do, and they got a lot of joy last week against Burnley. But what I've been a bit disappointed with Burnley is that they've just as much as they've been going forward and looking to attack, they just haven't been able to have that quality in the final third so far to create any good quality chances. They did score a goal against Villa, but it was a bit of kind of out the blue, and Villa then hit back fairly quickly. And I feel like Spurs will want Burnley to come out and try and play them and try and take them on. I think like if you try and press Basuma, that's what he wants. He doesn't want you waiting for him. He wants you to try and come for him and try and take the ball off him so he can dribble past you and open up the space. And I think Spurs, with maybe more space than potentially previous years going away at Burnley, I think I can see them thriving in this game, and I think I can see Tottenham dominating. And I think Burnley have been a bit naive so far in their first couple of games, maybe trying to play too much football against good Premier League sides, and they haven't been up to it. And I see them doing it again against Spurs, and I'm going for a 3-0 win.
Yeah, I mean, I said before the season that Burnley could be a bit of a surprise package to finish mid-table or somewhere like that. But after seeing them in their first 2 games, albeit there has been very hard games against Man City and Aston Villa, 2 very good Premier League sides, and obviously Man City, one of the best Premier League sides of all time. I think you're right in what you're saying. They've been naive so far, and I think that's going to carry on in this game against Tottenham Hotspur. We've been really good in the Premier League so far. We had a really poor performance in the Cup midweek, and I think Ange Postecoglou is going to drill it into them that they need to respond to that performance and put in a good display. So I think we're going to be solid defensively with Romero, Mickey van de Ven, Doji and Porro back in the back line. And obviously the midfield has been really strong with Pape Matar and Bissouma and James Maddison forming a midfield 3. So I think with those players providing a solid base for us, I think we'll have enough to contain with whatever Burnley throw at us. And I think Burnley are going to leave enough gaps for us to go and score. So I've gone for 2-0 to Tottenham Hotspur. Next up is Chelsea against Nottingham Forest. Sim's gone for a bit of an upset here. He's gone for 1-1 at Stamford Bridge. I've gone for 2-0 to Chelsea. And I think like Chelsea are growing into this season a little bit, albeit they probably would have liked to have shown more at this stage than what they have shown. But against a Nottingham Forest side who I haven't really been that impressed with. I think when they did go to Arsenal on the opening day of the season, they did nearly nick a draw, but I think that was more to Arsenal more taking their foot off the gas. And with the form that Raheem Sterling's on, and I think Chelsea can really take Nottingham Forest to the sword this weekend. So 2-0.
I'm predicting Chelsea to struggle. I think with Forest's away form, how they've really changed their approach in the last few away games, leading from the back end of last season, I can see them making it really difficult for Chelsea to play their game that they want to play. And we know Chelsea are going to dominate the ball, but Forest are going to expect that. And they made Arsenal and they made Man United really work hard for their wins. And I don't think Chelsea are on that level at the moment. I'm looking at the football that Chelsea are playing. Apart from a good spell against West Ham, I've seen them struggle against low blocks. They had a good spell against Liverpool as well, but I'm seeing them struggle to really break teams down with passages of play. They're relying on individual brilliance a lot of the time. Raheem Sterling is on fire, and if he turns up and if he's a one-man show like he was against Luton, then yeah, maybe they'll take the win. But I think Forest are a better team than that, a better team than Luton. And I think if Chelsea put in a similar performance they did against Luton, I think they drop points in this one. I wasn't impressed with them, even though they won 3-0.
Interesting stuff. Sim's gone for 1-1 here at Stamford Bridge. Let's move on to the City of Manchester, and it's Manchester City against Fulham. Sim's gone for 2-0 to Man City. I've gone for 3-0 to Man City, so a role reversal in the Tottenham game. And I think it's going to be easy pickings for Man City this weekend. I mean, Fulham, they haven't really impressed, albeit they did get a draw against Arsenal, which was very impressive. But apart from that, I haven't been impressed with them whatsoever. Man City and Man City, and I think that it could be a bit of a landslide victory. I was even thinking more than 3-0 in this game. And Man City haven't really like gone full pelt and really battered a team yet. And I think in their second home game, in the first home game, they beat Newcastle 1-0, and it looked very hard for Newcastle to get anything out of that game. And this Fulham side, I'm not very impressed. So I think Man City are going to batter them a bit this weekend.
Yeah, I think City are kind of easing their way into the season like they do early doors in a lot of Premier League seasons where we've seen they kind of they kind of get the wheels turning and then they go second half of the season in full flight. So I'm expecting Man City to dominate. I'm expecting them to create chances. But I think Fulham are obviously they're a good team. I think a lot depends because there's a lot of rumours at the moment about João Paulinho. If he leaves before the deadline, I think this could be a massive hiding because I think he's such an important player to them. He makes such a difference, João Paulinho. If he's not playing, this could be probably what you're saying about 4 or 5-0, maybe a big scoreline. But if he is still here come the deadline, which right now he's still a Fulham player, so I'm going to assume he's going to play. I do expect them to try and make things a bit more difficult for City, but I think City are going to have too much quality on the day. But I haven't gone for a rout. I've just gone for the 2-0.
All right, next up is the 5:30 kickoff. Really good game I'm anticipating here at the Amex. It's Brighton against Newcastle. Sim's gone for 2-0 to Newcastle. I've gone for 2-1 to Newcastle. So I envisage Brighton do get in a goal, especially Ansu Fati potentially making his debut in this game. It might come a bit too soon for him. I think Newcastle have been impressive in their opening few games of the season, have failed to keep a clean sheet as of yet, and I think coming up against a very good Brighton side at home, I think Brighton can nick a goal, but I do think Newcastle are going to be a bit too strong, so 2-1.
I think Newcastle might be looking at the template of West Ham last week and licking their lips a bit, because we know that Newcastle are capable of having a very strong defensive performance and counter-attacking, and they've got better players than West Ham as well. So I think Brighton at the moment, they battered Luton and then they battered Wolves first couple games, but maybe I think that's given a false impression for teams where exactly Brighton are, because I think people looked at that and thought, okay, Brighton are serious this season, and I agree they're a good team, but I don't think they're as good as those early results suggested, and I think they're going to struggle again in this game. And I think Newcastle, I just look at Brighton's front line at the moment, and the structure of the team is very strong, but right now that the strikers in Welbeck playing every week, Ferguson and João Pedro, I can see them struggling against this Newcastle backline who have been very strong under Eddie Howe, and I think their forward line is tailor-made to exploiting a Brighton side who like to leave lots of gaps. So I'm going for a 2-0 victory for Newcastle.
Yeah, and I think Newcastle are going to want to respond to that poor defeat really last week against 10-men Liverpool, where Liverpool really looked like the side deserved to win in that second half, in my opinion. And I think they're going to want to respond to that massively at the Amex this weekend. So I do envisage them getting 3 points. And they've only got 3 points so far this season. They've lost 2 on the bounce, so they need to respond. Next up is Crystal Palace against Wolves. We've gone for the exact same scoreline here in 1-1. What's your thinking behind this one?
Yeah, I see a close game. I think Wolves are probably, I can see them with their central midfield option, although Matthias Nunes is obviously on his way to Man City, so they're not going to have him available probably for this game. So that should probably affect my thinking. I didn't even consider that. But I do envisage a very close game with both sides not the most offensive of teams. They both like to be very, very solid. They both have a bit of quality in the forward line, but not too much quality where I can see one outscoring the other. So I can see both moments, maybe one from Eze and one for Wolves, maybe from Kalicic up front, finding a moment where they beat the opposition. But I'd see both teams cancelling each other out, so I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I've actually been really impressed with Wolves with the way they've started their season. Most people had them as their picks to go down, which still might happen, but I think the way they're playing their football is under Gary O'Neill is fairly impressive. Crystal Palace depleted front line with Eze and obviously Zaha's. I mean, Eze's there, but Zaha's gone now, and Elise is injured. So I think they are going to struggle to score until these players are back for them. But I think, I can't really split these teams at Selhurst Park, so I've gone for 1-1. This is going to be an interesting game, though. Up next is Liverpool against Aston Villa. I've gone for 3-1 to Liverpool. Sim's gone for 3-2. And I think Aston Villa are going to pretty much give a good game here and probably be suited to where they like to play, soak up the pressure and hit Liverpool on the counter-attack with a lot of space in behind that Liverpool are going to leave. But I think the firepower of Liverpool is just going to be way too strong in this game, and Villa will come unstuck, so 3-1.
Yeah, and I expect Darwin Núñez to come into the starting lineup after his brace against Newcastle, and I actually think he is more tailor-made with his physicality to playing teams like Aston Villa, where they're going to sit deep and they're going to need a bit of physical presence in the box, and I think he's going to provide that. But Aston Villa Villa, I can see on the counter-attack, they're a very good transitional team under Unai Emery, especially now with Moussa Diaby and his searing pace. I can see him causing Liverpool lots of trouble going into this game. But I think if Villa expect to sit back and soak up the pressure and keep Liverpool at bay, I just think they're going to struggle with Liverpool's quality, because I think maybe Liverpool the last season it might have worked, but now with McAllister and Szoboszlai, they have those lock pickers in the midfield that can really find and create chances. And now with Darwin Núñez, I suspect him playing, they're going to have an aerial threat in the box as well, not even to mention Salah and potentially Diaz or Jota on the wings as well. And then you can throw in Gakpo. So I just think they're going to have too much quality, but I expect Villa to be causing lots of trouble for Liverpool on the counter-attack. But I've gone for 3-2 in an entertaining game.
And Arsenal, Manchester United, a very big game this weekend at the Emirates. Sim's gone for 3-1 to Arsenal. I've gone for 2-0 to Arsenal. I mean, I think both of these teams will be a bit disappointed with the way they've started their season, albeit Arsenal obviously on 2 wins and a draw. Manchester United also with 2 wins and a loss against Tottenham. But I think Man United in those 2 wins have been really lucky. The one against Wolves, they didn't deserve anything out of that game. And the one against Nottingham Forest, they overturned a 2-0 deficit where they went 2-0 down fairly early. So I think Man United, all is not well at Man United at the moment, that's for sure. Arsenal, on the other hand, I mean, they're picking up the results, but they don't seem to be as fluid. They don't seem to have the same energy as they had last year, where they really went for the title. But I do think Arsenal have started the season much better than Manchester United. And I think at the Emirates, where Arsenal are usually strong, albeit they are giving away sloppy goals at the Emirates, which I didn't even consider making my prediction, to be fair. So I do think Arsenal will win this game. If I could re-pick, I would go 2-1 after just arguing with myself there, but I have gone for 2-0.
I think Arsenal play United at a very good time, because Varane's out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Luke Shaw's out for a long time. So it's going to be very much a makeshift backline. And couple that makeshift backline with the fact that they haven't kind of got the balance right in midfield right now, Man United. So I can see them struggling to really dominate possession. And if Arsenal kind of want a reaction to dropping points against Fulham, and I think this is the perfect game for them to have that reaction, I can see them really flying out the traps, and I can see them really putting the pressure on Man United, and I can't see Man United's backline holding firm. On the flip side, I still think with Bruno Fernandes and Rashford going the other way, I can see Man United having a few moments going forward. And I don't think Arsenal's defence looks 100% right at the moment, depending on obviously who plays. It still could be Partey at right back, or maybe Ben White will play there. Not 100% sure what it's going to look like, but I can see Man United causing Arsenal a bit of trouble, but it's not going to be enough to be able to get a result. And I think Arsenal come out resounding winners in this game 3-1.
Do you find it strange what Arteta's doing at the moment with that back line? I mean, Partey's been playing at right back. Gabriel, who was a mainstay in that back line for the last couple of years, hasn't been anywhere to be seen in the starting lineups. I mean, what is going on there?
I think he's basically starting to run before he can walk in terms of his tactical acumen, because I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to do what Pep does, which is change the way they play to keep the opposition guessing, kind of thing. And he's trying to flip the script so that his team are a bit more unpredictable. But what he had was last season was a really good thing, and there wasn't really a need to change it until it stopped working, if you know what I mean. So like, you could argue maybe at the end of last season it did stop working, but I think there were different reasons for that. Not just, I think it was more mentality than it was the tactics. So I would have kept it the same this season until things were going wrong. But he's decided to switch up too early on. But to be fair, look, they've got 7 points out of 9. It's not been disastrous, and maybe later in the season it can come in handy. But I think right now it just looks a bit odd, and they're definitely looking a bit stodgy. But yeah, I just think that's the reason.
I guess the Timber injury as well impacted that massively, because he probably would have started at right back if he didn't get injured. But I don't know. I think it's very strange decisions, because they do have players that can play right back, and Partey, who's never played there before, is suddenly just filling in at right back, and it just seems a bit odd to me, to be honest. But look, let's move on to the Starmen. A London lineup for the Starmen. Sim has gone for James Maddison. I've gone for Jared Bowen. I mean, what's your thinking behind Maddison?
Yeah, I think Burnley's the way they like to play, I think it's going to leave space for Maddison to operate in between the lines. He looked brilliant when he came on in the Carabao Cup. He looked great against Bournemouth last week, where he got a goal, and I expect him to be getting in more goal scoring positions. I think he's going to get chances in this game and chances to get assists as well. And I think away at Burnley, where they're not at the moment just the most aggressive team, and they're fair at the moment. What I've seen from them this season, they're fairly easy to play against. I think Maddison might be licking his lips in this game, so I've picked him.
Yeah, I've gone for Jared Bowen away at Luton, who I think are going to be the whipping boys or have been the whipping boys in the league so far. But it is a bit dodgy because it is their first game at home in the Premier League. I think they'll be bang up for it. But I do think Jared Bowen and West Ham are going to have the quality to overturn that and give Luton a bit of a game. And I said 3-1 to West Ham, and I think Jared Bowen will be central to that. So I've gone for Jared Bowen as my star man. Sim has gone for James Maddison. But I want to hear from you guys out there. Let us know your predictions in the comment section below. Let us know who your star man is for this weekend, and also let us know who you think is going to come out on top this weekend, me or Sim. The current scores are 46-43. Thank you everyone for watching today, and we'll see you next time.